This is a reality. By the way, Lebanon, Beirut in particular, is very close to my heart, and it's painful to see these. But whether Israel says it or not, it is a known fact that Hezbollah is embedded in the civilian population, that their buildings are adjacent to other people, that their bunkers are under buildings. So it's not a question of whether Israel says it or not. It is a sad fact of life. As for the targeting of Arab capitals, uh, we have seen a vastly superior number of missiles lobbed at the UAE, at Bahrain, at Kuwait, at Jordan, than Israel, in fact. Uh, it is not a secret in the Middle East that Iran and the Arab countries are not friends. And this is being proven every day with Iran desperately trying to cause harm, so far no more than cosmetic, to the Arab countries. And it is another, if you will, sample of the desperation of the regime. And it's not going to work for them. The end of the regime. Uh, Oman has been more than a mediator. Oman has been, uh, they have been playing both sides and the middle for years, and that they have been instrumental in allowing Iran to bypass sanctions. They have been Iran's banker, they have been Iran's transportation hub. The fact that Iran is now turning against Oman, it shows you, like I say, the irrationality and desperation of the regime. They even lobbed a missile at Turkey. They wanted to hit Incirlik, but they essentially lobbed a missile at Turkey. Erdogan has been one of their only friends in there. So they are being irrational, but nobody could ever accuse the Ayatollahs of being rational. Well, I, I, I don't know. I'm not. A friend of mine in Tehran told me the bombs are scary, which is an understatement considering the bombing that has been occurring there. But the regime is scarier. And uh, I believe he synthesizes what is a truism in this war. There is nothing more dangerous than the Iranian regime for Iranians and their neighbors. Yes, war is cruel, is painful. I don't have to lecture the Kurds about that. You guys know it all too well. But sometimes the alternative is worse. And in this case, an Iranian regime emboldened, armed to the teeth, a step away from nuclear weapons ought to be the scariest of them all. Over 200 years ago, President Jefferson was justifying going to war against the Barbary pirates in Tripoli. And his argument was that however high the cost of going to war with the Barbary pirates, nothing is more costly than the wages of terror. And the same thing applies today. However high the cost, and it's very easy to relativize and say, well, it's not so high, it could be worse. It doesn't matter if you are a casualty. You don't care what the probability of being a casualty is. But still, whatever the cost of eliminating the Iranian regime, the cost of paying the wages of terror is higher. And this is something that the Arab countries in particular understand all too well. And that is why they're mostly in support of this action. Well, inshallah, it will not happen. Their missile towards Incirlink was designed to hit nuclear capabilities in Incirlink. It was taken down immediately. Uh, there is, of course, a very doomsday um, diatribe from Iran, but whether they can do it or not, I happen to believe that they cannot hit nuclear sites in Israel if their life depended on it. If I'm wrong, yes, it will be a tragedy. If Iran had been allowed to build the 11 nuclear weapons that they claim in negotiations to already have the enriched uranium for, then can you imagine what they could have done today, lobbing nuclear weapons at Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Manama, Riyadh, and Tel Aviv? I think it is an imperative that we stop them. Well, if you had told me 20 years ago that I would live long enough to see the Arab countries joining Israel in a war against Iran, I would have thought you were nuts. I would not have thought it possible. And yet, here we are. Already, Arab countries have joined to the defense of Israel a year ago, and they're doing it now again at great and grave risk to themselves. And that shows you that in the shifting sands of the Middle East, indeed, everything is possible. Nobody knows how mistreated minorities are, like the Kurds in Iraq, the Baluch and the Kurds and the Arabs in Iran. It is so far been a very sad aspect of life. I believe that in this particular joining of forces between the most dispar from Egypt and Saudi Arabia to Israel and Bahrain, in order to end, and by the way, even Syria is joined in defense of Israel and against Iran. This tells me that everything is possible in a much brighter light, that we can find peace here with all of these peoples working together to eliminate the fanaticism, the hatred, and the vile of the Iranian regime. I have to say, I'm as much a victim as everybody else on this. I lost my fiancée to an Islamic Jihad attack in 85. I survived an attack in 83. I know them intimately. And I can tell you that while they didn't invent terrorism, it was there before, they industrialized it. They spread it far beyond anything that ever happened before. The Islamic Revolution in Iran has sponsored terrorism as far away as Buenos Aires, where they bombed the AMIA building with 84 dead and 230 wounded in 94. Israeli embassies, department stores, from Paris to Bali, from Buenos Aires to New York, from London to Rome. And this type of state-sponsored terrorism will not die immediately, but it will begin to die the day the Islamic Republic is no more. And we will be able to reign over it. My friend, I certainly hope not. And I wish I could tell you, no, it cannot happen. But we all know that we had the problems in Iraq virtually resolved by 2009. 2008, we signed the Status of Forces agreement that would have allowed for a transition to an independent government in Iraq with American bases to guarantee that the terrorists wouldn't come back. And it took a change of president in the US to throw that out of the window and make a total withdrawal and literally open the door to ISIS and the ISIS caliphate. And God knows how many died after that. In Afghanistan, it's the same thing. Afghanistan was pacified. We had an agreement to withdraw, maintaining a vigilant force in Bagram, and it took a change of president in the US to throw that out of the window with the calamitous results that we have seen. I can only hope that in the next 2 years, we will be able to consolidate changes and that they will take on their own dynamic in the Middle East and become a little more independent of the vagaries of politics in the US. I certainly hope so. It is up to the people in the Middle East, as much as it is to us, to seize this opportunity. This novel thing of Arab countries and Israel fighting side to side against the forces of barbarism that you just mentioned is the greatest source of optimism for me. And it is the only guarantee that we can keep these dark forces at bay. And unfortunately, the opinion of the masses is easily manipulated. But there is a saying in Spanish countries, he who gets burned with milk cries at the sight of a cow. The peoples of the Middle East, the rational peoples of the Middle East, the ones who are not terrorists, the vast majority who work every day to earn a living and are, I'm a witness to nothing but welcoming to foreigners, have been burnt many times. And it is very difficult for them to gather the hope that this time it may work. But this is the time when it is those very people who are doubting who need to seize the opportunity. The US is not going to occupy Iran. The US is going to destroy the repressive apparatus of the regime. It is then up to the people in the area to seize the opportunity and build a better future for themselves without the threat of being killed in the street for protesting the price of fuel. This is when, and this is when it needs to be done. Uh, I heard, and you probably have too, rumors all day about Kurds in Iran's Kurdistan rising. Uh, I have a lot of conflicting information. It may be happening or not. But it would be a good thing for them to do so at this time. And the same thing for the Azeris and the Baluch, and take control of their future. The regime is not dead. It's badly wounded. It's weaker than at any time since 78 or 79, rather. It is a perfect opportunity for people to seize their own destiny. And if they do it, we might yet see. I hope for a day when Israelis take a weekend at the beach in Beirut, and people in Beirut go for a week in the city in Tel Aviv to restaurants and enjoying themselves. And I think it can happen. And now that I've seen what I have seen, I have great hopes that it will happen. When you speak to people in Lebanon, in Egypt, of course, you can speak to a fanatic out in a madrasa. That's going to be a different story. But the majority of people are aching for the possibility to live in peace, to trade with their neighbors, to grow. What the Emiratis have done with Israel in the past 5 years is nothing short of amazing. And it has improved the lives of both people in the Emirates and in Israel. And it has created economic ties and technological ties. And they're helping each other with medical science, not with bombs. And we can do this. We definitely can do this. So, to the people out there who are fearful, fear is okay. I can understand that. The bombs are scary, but let's seize it.